Hi, I'm Meg, a one-time nerd who grew up to be... Hey, you're still a nerd.
Sorry, younger self, but if I weren't a nerd, I wouldn't have put a picture of myself in a Star Trek dress on a free online dating site, and then I wouldn't have all these strange, but true, stories to share.
I dig the Star Trek outfit. In my neck of the woods, we call that lingerie.
In which I entertain, enlighten, and raise a half-full glass.
The reason OkCupid.com is so hilarious is because I get messages from all sorts of interesting guys, which happens because on OkCupid there are no parameters. Anybody can message anybody else. This is not the case on eHarmony, which uses computer algorithms to match you up on, quote, 29 dimensions of compatibility, registered trademark, end quote. What this translates to is that you and your match share underlying characteristics like determination and positivity and drive and stuff like that, which does not necessarily translate to things in common. So what'd you do this weekend?
Well, I took the kids fishing and did some rifle shooting and listened to some Hank Williams. What'd you do?
I played Star Wars Trivial Pursuit and watched The Sound of Music and ate a corn dog.
Sweet.
Unless kissing counts as a thing in common. I use the word ironically a lot. I don't do it on purpose. It just pops out when I tell my story because I think there are forces of irony in the universe and they have a twisted sense of humor and they are fond of me. If fond is the right word, it may not be. What is irony, you ask? Or perhaps you don't ask, but here's the answer nonetheless because I worked hard on it and I even looked at websites besides Wikipedia. There are different kinds of irony, the simplest being inconsistency between what's expected to be versus what actually is. For example, once while attending a webinar on communication skills, I answered the question, what is your goal for today's course, by typing immerpaved accuracy and clicking submit. This is ironic because one would expect an adjective describing accuracy to be, well, accurate, although one would not expect a person who desires improved accuracy to be accurate. So now that I think of it, this may or may not be an example of irony. Like Schrodinger's cat, except it's not. Or maybe it is. Defining irony is kind of slippery, actually. Enough so that there's a website called isitironic.com, which is where I encounter the term cosmic irony, used to describe the notion that God/the fate/the universe use irony to toy with humans just for fun, like making Beethoven deaf. Misfortune is different than irony. For example, hypothetically speaking, if you were cast as a soldier in Jesus Christ Superstar and you had to lobby really, really, really hard for the music director to change the key so your song was higher, and then for half the performances you got sick and you couldn't sing, that would be misfortune. But if, after all the lobbying and key-raising fun, you got sick and you could sing everything except the high notes, that would be irony, hypothetically. In literature, there is also something called dramatic irony, wherein the audience, that's you, knows something that the character, that's me, does not know. For example, I will tell you now that exotic genius man, whom you will meet later, has an undisclosed estranged wife in Canada. Then, when we get to that part of the story, you'll be all like, no, don't dive in, because you know more than me. Although, regarding romance, that's probably true anyway. Conceptually, I dig irony. Irony is like a thinking man's sarcasm. It's coincidence on steroids. It's paradox with a purpose. My very, very favorite example of irony is the following. In 2002, the people of Lauderhill, Florida invited James Earl Jones to be the speaker at their Martin Luther King Jr. Day celebration. James Earl Jones is a distinguished black actor, and also the voice of Darth Vader, which fills me with delight. They ordered a plaque to give to Darth Jones to thank him, which was supposed to say,
"Thank you, James Earl Jones, for keeping the dream alive."
What it actually said was,
"Thank you, James Earl Ray, for keeping the dream alive."
I've always assumed this was urban legend, so I cannot express how delighted I am to discover via Snopes.com that it is actually true. Aha, ha, 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 evidence! There are forces of irony in the universe. Forces that are apparently fond of Lauderhill, Florida. Remind me to never go there. Now here's something nifty, which is I have discovered my life's purpose. Although that's not as hoity-toity as it sounds, because actually my purpose isn't that exciting. It's to entertain and enlighten. Most of the time I focus on the entertain, but every once in a while I like to think I can enlighten people. Usually this happens by me being an example of what not to do, but sometimes I have actual wisdom to share, and I hope that you, the viewer, will learn at least one or two things while watching. Now, if you, the viewer, are a female, or a male who is not on the online dating scene, you can ignore this next bit. But if you, the viewer, are a male who is on the online dating scene, I highly encourage you to learn the following very, very important online dating lesson. When you message a girl, think about what you are saying! That's it. That's the entire lesson. Well, I know it seems obvious, but based on the evidence...
So, if you still have that Star Trek dress, I have some fantasies I'd love to fulfill.
Hey, James.
Hey.
How's it going?
Good. Cold, actually, a little bit.
It's a little cold out here. I thought it'd be useful to have like a little lesson. You opened our conversation with basically an invitation for me to sleep with you.
Yeah.
You just came on a little strong, that's all. Maybe,
So what,
that's my actual name.
I was thinking about Star Trek. I thought that I could be Chekhov, and you could be like Uhura,
I'm
and we
very
could go
much
to
like
an alien
Michelle
planet.
Nichols.
Yeah, and it could be like you are on an away mission,
sounds naughty.
well, right. You might sleep in, whatever the alien form of trees are. They have to submit the data at the end of the expedition, right?
No pun intended.
Actually, I want to be the alien. I want to be the alien that impregnates you.
Oh my... You're so making me want to go out with you.
What? Right?
Think about it. That's all I'm asking. Somewhere in between ages 13 and 39, I discovered a marvelous concept hitherto unknown to me, namely social skills.
Thus, I actually have friends these days. A lot of them. This is awesome for many, many reasons, not the least of which is I get to learn and discuss and debate all these different worldviews and opinions.
For example, some of my friends try to convince me that A, forces of irony do not exist, and 2, optimism is a valid life choice. To which I say, A, just talk to Beethoven. Except he can't hear you because he's deaf. And 2, I am much happier now that I've given up optimism. It's all about expectations. I predict future events based on past evidence. Meg Phillips is going to take vacation the entire week of Thanksgiving. Last November, I tried to take a week off and my house caught on fire. So here's hoping. And thus, as an example, I fully expect every vacation to be interrupted by fire, flood, hurricane, or some other disaster. Because that is what happened the last 7 times I took a vacation. And having flirted with optimisms for vacays 5 and 6, but eschewed such foolishness for vacay 7, I have learned that saying, "My, what bad luck I have had. Thank goodness I know how to turn my frown upside down because this vacation will be great," results in me collapsing into a weepy puddle and staying there for a few days, sniffling. Whereas saying, "My vacation will probably involve a disaster of some sort. I wonder what it will be," results in me collapsing into a weepy puddle, briefly cursing the universe, and then moving on. So I am comfortably ensconced in the cynic's camp. I presume things will go badly at some point, but I'm cheerful about it. I'm okay with being a cynic, but I've noticed that optimists dislike it when people defect from Team It'll Get Better and will try to cajole you via Facebook post back to the land of hope, going so far sometimes as to use the phrase inner child, which I can't hear without thinking of the Doctor Who episode Empty Child, which features this scary 4-year-old kid whose touch makes people's faces morph into gas masks, following which they turn into zombies. Ironically, this episode has a happy ending. Now, one nice thing about making my very own web series is that I can espouse whatever life philosophy I want and my friends can't contradict me. I mean, sure, they can tell me about it later, but there's nothing they can do right this second to stop me. Unless they have a time machine. In which case, they'll show up right now. Ha! Cynicism rocks, suckers! I thought I was alone in this philosophy until I discovered my friend Meredith also fully expects, based on past evidence, that things will go badly at some point. Meaning I have a fellow resident in Camp Cynic. which is awesome because we have good drinks here.
We need good drinks here.
And it's nice to have a friend who will join me in a toast to impending disaster.
To impending disaster.
Woo!
Wow, you might be an even bigger nerd than me. I can't believe you live 5 states away. Why is it that everyone I find attractive lives on Mars? Dang it. I think the world has it in for me. LOL.
Holy cow! A fellow cheerful cynic who uses the word dang it. I can't believe he lives 5 states away. Dang it.
So, what do you want to do?
We could watch a movie?
Okay. Anything scary?
No.
Action movies?
Well, there's just so many explosions.
Any westerns?
I have Oklahoma.